Dr. Elijah Carter ended another long shift at St. Mark Hospital, thinking only of sleep. Yet fate had other plans for him as the ambulance doors burst open and paramedics rushed in with a woman who was bleeding heavily and struggling to breathe. They shouted that she had been in a highway accident and needed immediate surgery. Elijah stepped forward without hesitation because saving lives was all he knew how to do. As they wheeled her past, he caught the fear in her eyes and heard her whisper something that carried a sharp sting. She looked at his dark skin and muttered that she did not want a black doctor touching her. The words hit him like cold steel, yet he pushed the sting aside because a human life was fading and time was running out. He told the staff to prep the operating room while he focused only on her failing pulse and the way her breath trembled as if holding on to its very last thread. Inside the operating room, Elijah worked with steady hands and sharp focus. The woman had internal bleeding, a shattered rib, and dangerously low oxygen levels. Every second meant the difference between life and death. While others hesitated, he made decisions with confidence because this was his duty, his calling, and his belief that every life mattered regardless of the heart that carried it. Hours passed as he fought to keep her alive, using every skill he had built through years of sacrifice. He remembered the nights he studied until his vision blurred, the days he endured insults from patients who believed his skin made him less capable, and the quiet promise he made to rise above hatred. That promise lived in every careful stitch he placed in the woman who had insulted him, even as she bled. When the surgery ended, the monitor steadied, showing that the woman named Caroline Hale would live. Elijah left the room, exhausted yet proud of the victory. He knew she would likely never thank him, yet saving her was enough. He walked out into the night to breathe cool air, unaware that the next day would bring a storm he could not avoid. Caroline woke up in a room filled with soft beeping sounds and a dull ache in her chest. She saw a nurse and demanded to know who had treated her. When she heard the name Dr. Elijah Carter, she stiffened and anger flared across her pale face. She insisted she wanted another doctor, claiming she did not trust him, even though he had saved her life. The nurse stepped back in disbelief, yet explained truthfully that Elijah had spent hours keeping her alive. Caroline refused to listen and snapped that she would never have agreed to let him touch her. When Elijah entered for the routine check, she glared at him with open hostility. She accused him of touching her without her permission and demanded that someone else take over her care. Elijah felt the weight of her words but kept his composure because he had seen hatred before. He simply explained that he had saved her life, and that without his intervention, she would have died on the highway floor. She refused to believe it. She said that people like him were not meant to be doctors. The silence that followed felt heavy, like a shadow cast over the room. But Elijah did not respond with anger. He wished her healing and walked out with dignity, because his worth was not defined by her prejudice. Yet the story did not end there. That evening, Caroline's condition worsened. Her breathing grew shallow and panic filled her eyes. She begged for help, and nurses rushed in, but the doctor on call was busy in another emergency. When they called Elijah, he ran without hesitation, even though she had pushed him away only hours before. He reached her side and saw the fear breaking through her hardened shell. For the first time, her voice trembled as she whispered that she did not want to die. He held her wrist, checking her pulse, and told her to stay calm because he would not let anything happen to her. As he worked, she watched him with wide eyes, seeing not his skin, but the steady strength in his touch and the way he fought for her without resentment. Slowly, her breathing steadied. Elijah stayed until the danger passed, then stepped away quietly. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized the truth she had been refusing to see. This man she had insulted twice had saved her twice. No one had ever shown her grace when she had shown cruelty. Shame crept through her like a slow rising tide. The next morning, she asked for him. When Elijah entered, she could not meet his eyes at first. She whispered a broken apology that sounded like it had been trapped inside her for years. She admitted that her fear and upbringing had twisted her views and that she judged him before she saw him. Elijah listened silently. He told her that hatred was learned, but so was healing, and it was never too late to choose the better path. His voice was calm, soft, yet full of strength. Caroline began to cry openly because she finally understood that her prejudice had almost cost her not just her dignity, but her life. She asked him how he found the strength to help someone who had rejected him. Elijah simply said that he believed in giving people what they needed, not what they showed. She needed saving, so he saved her. She needed mercy, so he offered it. She needed a chance to become better, so he gave her that too. Days later, when she was discharged, she thanked him again with tears in her eyes and promised she would never forget the man who saved her. Twice. Elijah watched her leave with the quiet hope that maybe kindness had carved a small space inside a hardened heart. He did not need praise. He only needed to know that he had done what was right. And as he walked back down the hospital corridor with the smell of antiseptic and the soft echo of footsteps around him, he felt something powerful. A reminder that even in a world fractured by fear and division, a single act of courage could crack the shell around a soul and let light in. Sometimes the greatest victories were not surgeries or miracles, but the unseen moment a human heart changed for the better.